Saludamos a todos nuestros amigos de Enlace Latino NC. Como podrán ver, tenemos pantalla dividida la tarde de hoy, cuando son las 2:15 p.m. de este martes 19 de noviembre. Se está llevando a cabo o se estará llevando a cabo desde la Cámara de Representantes de la Asamblea General Legislativa de Carolina del Norte la votación para anular el veto del gobernador Roy Cooper al proyecto HB10. Les recordamos que este proyecto de ley es un proyecto que obligaría a los alguaciles a colaborar con ICE y que también, aparte de este punto, esta propuesta también destina millones de fondos públicos para la creación de vales escolares en las escuelas públicas. Desde la Asamblea General Legislativa se encuentra mi compañera y reportera de Política y Comunidad, Claudia Rivera Coto, junto a nuestro editor general y cofundador de Enlace Latino NC. Ya se están preparando en este momento desde la Asamblea General para iniciar esta votación. Se dice que será una votación rápida. Por ahora, la información que se maneja es que en este momento se daría la votación por parte de la Cámara de Representantes para anular el veto del gobernador Roy Cooper al proyecto HB10 y al parecer el día de mañana, más o menos a esta misma hora, 2 de la tarde, se estaría llevando la votación en el Senado estatal. Por ahora los vamos a dejar con imágenes de lo que es pues estos minutos antes de lo que será la votación. Pues al principio se decía que era a las 12 del mediodía, luego pasó a la 1 de la tarde, luego informaron a todo el personal y al equipo a los medios de comunicación que esta votación se daría a las 2 de la tarde. Ya van un poco atrasados, van 17 minutos, estamos esperando qué es lo que ocurre. También desde este lugar y también en el segundo piso de acá de la Asamblea se encuentran organizaciones y líderes comunitarios que han estado realizando diversas actividades para o en contra de este proyecto de ley HB10. Gracias a quienes están conectados a esta hora con nosotros, pues lo importante es que esto es un proyecto de ley que va seguramente a tener cierto impacto legal y comunitario, y de eso también estaremos hablando más adelante en Enlace Latino NC. Acá les vamos a dejar la pantalla completa de lo que ocurre desde la Asamblea General Legislativa de Carolina del Norte. Estamos desde la Cámara de Representantes. Ahí pueden ver imágenes de los diferentes representantes de la Cámara, quienes hoy darán o harán la votación para anular el veto del gobernador Roy Cooper. Recordemos que los legisladores republicanos podrían perder la supermayoría en la Asamblea General tras las elecciones de 2024. Esto pues faltan por contar votos y en este momento inicia la votación.
We'd ask our members and our guests in the gallery to please silence all electronic devices. This afternoon's prayer will be offered by Representative Quick. We'd ask everyone on the floor and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer and to remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance thereafter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, everyone. Let's pause just for a moment to center ourselves on the fact that we're talking to the creator of the heavens and earth. Magnificent Father, we gather in awe of you and the work of your hands. For all things are made by you and you alone. In fact, this very day we gather was made by you, and we rejoice and are glad in it. Thank you for the privilege of praying with the confidence that you hear us and will act according to your will. Now, as the needy children that we are, We humbly bow and ask for your wisdom and guidance as we set about the legislative work you allow us to do. Thank you for the amazing staff that supports us. As we make important decisions today, including those that are life-changing for some, help us to make them with compassion and consideration. Finally, as citizens of North Carolina, look to us. Keep us mindful always to look to you. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Gentleman from Falkland, Representative Hall, is recognized for motion. Mr. Speaker, the journal for October 24th has been examined. If that would be correct, I move that be approved as written. Representative Hall moves the journal for October 24th be approved as written. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The journal is approved as written.
Got a beautiful birthday party here too, I think.
Members, one bill and three joint resolutions were filed with the clerk's office this morning. These are the appointments bill, as well as two resolutions to confirm the governor's nominations and the new adjournment resolution. Without objection, those matters will be read first time today. So ordered. Introductions, bills, resolutions, the clerk will read.
Adjournment resolution?
Representative Dee Hall, House Bill 1078, a bill to be entitled Additional General Assembly Appointments.
Chair made it, just adding these to the calendar, so we'll just say rules for the moment, but the chair may revisit that in a moment.
Representative Carson Smith, House Joint Resolution 1079, a joint resolution confirming Roger Hawley, Director of SBI. The House concurs, Senate concurs. House Joint Resolution 1080, Representative Dee Hall, joint resolution confirming Director of Medicaid. The House resolves, the Senate concurs.
Clerk may continue.
Representative Hall, House Joint Resolution 1081, joint resolution, and joint resolution changes.
Clerk, given the hour of the day and the fact that the chair is aware of the caucus, the chair believes those are probably non-controversial, so the chair's going to move over this calendar this time. Members, we're going to move to the veto override as our first item of business. House Bill 10, the clerk read.
Representatives Dee Hall, B. Jones, and Carson Smith. House Bill 10, an act to be entitled Require High School Operation and Budget Adjustments. The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts.
The gentleman from Colville, Representative Hall, is recognized for a motion. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House pass House Bill 10 requiring ICE cooperation and budget adjustments, notwithstanding the objections of the governor. The gentleman has moved that the House to override the vetoes as to House Bill 10. Does the gentleman wish to debate? The gentleman is recognized to debate the bill. I'll speak to it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm going to speak to the ICE cooperation provision of this bill. As you all know, I'm working on this now for, I've lost count, probably 6 or 7 years. And what we've seen over time is example after example of folks who are here in this country illegally, also being charged with serious crimes, felony crimes, and a small number of sheriffs, maybe 5, maybe fewer, taking those people into the jail, ICE lodging a detainer, and then that sheriff allowing the person to walk out of the jail and not cooperating with ICE. And we've seen people go on to reoffend as a result of that. But what's also changed since the last time that we heard this is we had a national election. And key in that national election was the fact that our border, southern part of this country, simply didn't exist for nearly 4 years. And millions of folks from all over the world, not just Central and South America, people from the Middle East, people from China, coming across the border report after report of folks linked to terrorist organizations like Hamas coming across the border and being found. And that issue was litigated, and it's clear where the people of not only North Carolina stand on that issue, but the people of the United States. They believe in enforcing immigration law. And as I've said before, no matter what we get on a bill like this, federal law still exists. Federal law still says that you can't cross the border without doing so legally. The federal government still has the ability to go out and enforce those rules. And when sheriffs decide that they're not going to cooperate with ICE, it's not that the folks that they let out are simply just allowed to hang out and continue as if nothing happened. What happens then is ICE has to go out into the fields, into their workplace, into the homes, and do their job outside of the confines of a jail. And any law enforcement official you speak to will tell you that. And that is, they would rather serve any sort of process on somebody in a jail, where they know it's safe not only for the law enforcement officer, say again, it's unbelievable to me that any law enforcement officer who truly is trying to do everything that they can to keep their folks safe would not already cooperate with ICE. And I think it's unfortunate that we even need this bill. And we didn't need it until about 6 years ago, because every sheriff in the state was already doing what it requires. So this is the final hurdle for this bill. I hope you will support it. If you haven't in the past, I hope you will take into consideration the overwhelming opinion shown by the voters again of this state and the country in this past national election. I hope you'll vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What purpose does the lady from Lake, Representative Von Hafen?
To debate the motion?
The lady has to speak.
Well, I'm glad Representative Hall talked about the will of the voters, because after the last election, I think the will of the voters in North Carolina showed that they want to support our public schools. It's hard to believe that we are here just a few short weeks after Hurricane Helene, and debating the fact that we're spending billions of dollars going to unaccountable private schools in our state rather than supporting the victims of Hurricane Helene. This bill will basically benefit a very, very small portion of North Carolinians, approximately 54,000 people that are on the waiting list for our voucher system. But we have a long road ahead of us when we talk about Hurricane Helene recovery. Western North Carolina is recovering from a once-in-a-lifetime storm. There are small business owners struggling to make ends meet and in need of immediate relief in the form of state grants. These small businesses are friends and neighbors, people that we visit when we go to the mountains as a tourist or as a resident. They are the backbones of our economy, and we have to make sure that they survive. But yet we are here today to override this bill, which will spend $500 million on expanding this unaccountable private school voucher program, mostly for the wealthiest families in our state. It will be nearly impossible to stop this voucher system going into the future, which will take over $6 billion out of the budget that could go to storm recovery. What I really don't understand, it's so incredible. I've been thinking about this so much in the last few weeks, especially since Helene. What I really don't understand is the fact that the funding that we're voting on today only benefits a very small number of counties in our state. 28 counties in our state only have 1 or even 0 private schools participating in the voucher program. And 8 of those 28 counties are in the most affected parts of Western North Carolina. Avery County is someplace that's very close to my heart because I own a house in Avery County and I spend a lot of time there. Avery County is one of the counties that will lose much needed funding for their public schools because of this bill. 80% of the children in Avery County go to our public schools, but yet there's only 1 private school that participates in this program. Avery County is estimated to lose thousands of dollars for their public schools if we pass this bill today. Their schools are out for over 6 weeks after Helene, and they are still recovering today as they transition their students back into normal routine and are operating on very limited bus schedules because of road outages that I'm sure the representative from Avery County knows very well. Another county that was hit extremely hard, and almost 80% of the children in that county, is Ashe County. Ashe County has 0 private schools that participate in this program, but they will again lose thousands of dollars in public school funding because of HB10. Counties including Haywood, Madison, and Yancey County, 80% of their students go to public school, but they have 1, 2, or maybe 4 private schools that accept vouchers. Clearly, the hardest hit counties in Western North Carolina will be the most affected because their families do not benefit from the millions of dollars being appropriated in this bill. What really blows my mind is the fact that only 10 counties in our state account for almost half of the applicants for private school vouchers. Wake County, as you all know I represent part of, has more applicants than the bottom 60 counties combined for this program. So the very members that have voted for this bill in the past and may vote to override the veto today are not voting in favor of their own constituents and their own children that live in their districts. They're taking action today that will support other counties. And the 28 counties that have 0 or 1 private school, I just don't understand that thinking. I don't understand the thinking of voting for a bill that's not going to benefit your own constituents. Another thing that's so frustrating about this program is our state is the most unaccountable private school voucher program in the entire country. Do we require testing for our private schools that receive vouchers? No. Do we require our private school teachers to be certified? No. Do we require accreditation of our private schools? No. Do we require vetting of the curriculum for the private schools? No. We are the least accountable program in the entire country. If you look at similar voucher programs in states like Indiana, Florida, Ohio, other Republican-led legislative states, all those states require the things that I just mentioned: testing, teacher accreditation, qualifications, and curriculum. We don't require any of those things in our state. So how can we say that appropriating more money to an unaccountable private voucher program is going to increase educational outcomes? We have no evidence of that. And actually, in the states that I just mentioned, educational outcomes have actually decreased in those states when they expanded their voucher programs. We should prioritize spending our taxpayer money in recovery from Helene and the $53 billion that's estimated to be costing us to recover from this horrible storm. Instead, we're spending it on private school vouchers for wealthy families that can already afford to send their kids to these schools and already likely are. 3/4 of the people that receive funding from these vouchers make over $115,000 a year, and 1/4 of them make more than $259,000 a year. Meanwhile, people in Western North Carolina are just not getting clean water to drink. Many of them are still isolated. I was just at the diaper bank in North Carolina yesterday speaking to them about the recovery efforts, and they literally said that people are begging for diapers. They're begging for infant formula, period products, things that people need just to survive. North Carolina shouldn't be begging for diapers and formula. We have the money to help them survive, but instead we're giving it away to the wealthiest families in our state. Please think about what is beneficial for your district, for your constituents, for your children, the children that in your district that attend our public schools. 1.5 million children in North Carolina attend our public schools, and they're waiting for the full funding that they deserve. We've heard from leadership that families are, quote, waiting for this funding. We promised them this funding. Well, our state constitution promises our public school children a sound, basic, and adequate education, and they've been waiting for that for 30 years. At a time after a really divisive election, It would be nice to show the people of North Carolina that we are really paying attention to their needs. We're paying attention to the fact that people in the Western part of our state are hurting and that we want to do everything that we can to help them. Now, we saw a bill, it's not even on the dashboard, but it's going around on Twitter and all these kind of things that we might be voting on another bill today. And that bill only appropriates $27 million toward hurricane relief, $27 million. This bill appropriates $500 million to our private schools. The election results, like I said, the election results in this outcome of the election show that voters in the state want to support our public schools. Voters in other states, like Kentucky, actually rejected private school vouchers. Even voters that voted for Donald Trump rejected a bill on their ballot that expanded their private school voucher program. So if we're going to follow the will of the voters, like was mentioned before, the expansion of private school vouchers has never won when it's been put to voters in Republican or Democratic states. Let's do the right thing today. Use the money that we're going to spend on these harmful private school vouchers and instead rededicate ourselves to helping those in need and investing in our private public schools that the majority of North Carolina children attend. Please think about the children in your own districts and please vote no.
What purpose does the lady from Lake Representative Crawford rise?
To speak to the bill.
Lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I share in my colleagues' sentiments today and what Representative Von Hafen said about prioritizing and thinking about how we could use this money differently, whether it's for relief in Western North Carolina or to ensure that we meet our constitutional obligation to ensure every child has a free and sound basic public education. I also want to offer another perspective. And I mentioned this the last time that we debated this bill. There are 17,902 families on the Innovations Waiver waitlist. These are families who are waiting for services for their loved one with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Services that allow these individuals to live as independently as possible, to go to work, to participate in activities, to get therapeutic services, and a whole host of other things. Some of these families have been waiting for 10 years. I spoke with one family, and they said to me, we've been on the waiting list for 12 years, and we are worried that our child won't live long enough to even receive services. We have the ability in this chamber, we have talked about it, we have stood together on both sides of the aisles to talk about how we can put more money into slots for the Innovations Waiver. It would take a total of $650 million to completely eliminate the waiver list, to get all 17,902 of those families services. $650 million. With what HB10 does, we could provide services to that waiver list over and over and over again, and even fund the families that are still yet to come. So I ask you to please reprioritize these dollars. Think about the constituents in your districts. Intellectual and developmental disabilities know no geographic bounds. They know no socioeconomic status. They live in every single one of the districts that we represent. And I ask you to please sustain the governor's veto of this bill. Thank you.
What purpose of Jonathan Lake Representative Jonathan Rise?
Right, speak to the bills.
Jonathan.
I guess I want to start with a policy matter. And I hope if I'm ever in position, still here one day, we'll stop this. And it seems to be principle somewhere that floats around in this place, that you mix apples and oranges. And put the bill together that there's something in it that we all agree on 100% we could do and share with the people we care about. And we're done with that, and then get into this other stuff. And what I'm referring to is when we came in here the first time and voted on aid for the people in the mountains who were so horribly hurt by that hurricane. It was 100%, if I remember. Whatever the vote was, I don't remember the number, but everybody here that day would have sent that aid to those people. And I think if we did that again today, that's the same thing that would happen. So why not do it? I don't know who makes the decision to mix apples and oranges and grapes and pears and all other stuff in there. We should be just sending one kind of aid, and then we could tell the public, we care about our citizens, every single one of them. I don't live in the mountains, and most of us in here don't. The ones who do, they need the help, need it. We should send them a strong message. It's 100%. So why give the guy from Raleigh, who doesn't live up there, a situation where he's in a catch-22, a house that was eliminated, whatever they call it, where I have to vote against the aid for these people that I really, 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 really want to send to them, because we mixed some junk in here that doesn't need to be. And I call it junk because we could take these issues up separately and have honest debate. Still, if the majority wants to do the other things, they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway. But everyone can stand 100% like we did the first time and send the aid. So that's my first point. I don't like that about what the General Assembly does. And I don't know if the Democrats did it. I wasn't here when the Democrats were in charge. They probably did. I don't know. But it doesn't mean it's not a sorry thing to do. It's sorry. So I just want to say that. Now, second point. I agree with my colleagues, Mon Hayes and Crawford, about the education piece. You know, my grandmother, grandfather, father, mother, former wife were all teachers. I love education. I want every child in this state to have an opportunity to be well educated. I am totally committed to it, heart, soul, and body. So that's how I feel about education. But I do not feel that way about vouchers. Why? Well, first of all, the key to education is public education. Public schools is where most of our grandchildren and children end up going, and probably where most of everybody in this room went. Public education. It is sacred. Starting with Horace Mann in 1816 or whenever it was, because it used to be just the privileged got education. Now, most of us are eligible to go to a good school. But if they aren't good schools, then we should make sure every kid in North Carolina has an option to go to a good school. But vouchers is not the route. Vouchers is not the route because, again, to tell you the experience I had. Years ago, there was a school in the city, I won't call the name, very nice private school in North Raleigh. And one of my girls was interested in it. So we drove up there and we were to speed them, did the tour. School has a nice campus, almost like a college campus, beautiful place. If you live in Raleigh, you probably know what I'm talking about. So we go to the front office and talk to people about how much it would cost for my girl to go to this nice private school. Back then, I think they wanted about $25,000, $30,000 a year. So I told my wife, I said, look, we need to get up and leave on the door. We need to go, we need to waste these good people's time. When you can go to school free, or at the public high school, you get a very good education. What's my point? My point is, even if you send vouchers to every family in North Carolina, they will not have, there will be a drop in the bucket to what they have to pay for the equivalent education in public schools. So you have to pay the private sector that much more money, $20,000, $30,000 more, even with your voucher, to pay for it. So what's the point? Symbolism? You like God didn't have a choice? You got a choice already. Send your kid to public school and help make the public schools better. And everybody will fight if you make this public schools better wherever you are, and they're not good enough for your kid, you think. So I don't support vouchers for anybody's school. It's a very, very, very bad idea, period. Because you can't add enough to it to get what you can get free. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know who we're trying to send a message to, who we're posturing for, but it makes sense on the math. Now, third subject, ice bill. At one point in my sojourn through life, I was an assistant U.S. attorney. Right here in the city, right down the street in the federal building. And our job was to enforce federal law. ICE is federal law. And the federal government gives plenty of tax money to hire whoever they need to enforce their laws. They are our laws. We vote for federal people. We have 2 federal senators. What is it, 14 Congress people? They support our interests up there in DC. And if we need more ICE agents, let them take it out of that pot. What does the sheriff have? Are we going to send the sheriffs any extra money to enforce these ICE laws for the federal government? Or we just going to be good guys? I say tell ICE to do ICE's work. Needs more money, go over there and get it from the federal government. Because my sheriff in this county is tied up. His name is Willie Rowe. He talked to me about it. Today, we don't need that House Bill 10. This is the biggest city, biggest county, I think, now, we're past Charlotte, in North Carolina. That's my sheriff. He does an excellent job. So I'd say at least do this. If you're going to tell him to go help ICE do his job, send him some money. Send him some doggone money and show me that your money is where your mouth is, and stop posturing. We're just posturing with that. And I know we're better than that. And if I were in the majority and I was talking, I'd say the same thing. I promise if I live on from here and we do have the majority, I'll say the same thing if I'm in the majority. So it had nothing to do with Republican, Democrat. It has to do with what's right. And our sheriffs have enough work to do without doing ICE work free and stealing money from the citizens of their counties, many of which are poor and weak, to do this job when they already pay taxes for ICE to do the job. No one's going to tell me you can't house somebody in the jail, but it's not my sheriff's job to go running after. So those are my 3 points. I want to make it. May not make any difference, but I have to say, I think.
For what purpose does the lady from Mecklenburg, Representative Cunningham runs?
To speak to the motions.
Lady is cool.
I rise today with my foremost priorities being the safety and well-being of constituents in my district, the public at large in North Carolina. Recent tragedies in Mecklenburg County highlights the pressing need for decisive action. On September the 26th of 23, Kyrene Greer, a father of two children, working as a tow truck driver, was shot while sitting in his truck. Matthew Dollar, say the name, Matthew Dollar, a Duke Energy line technician, was shot in the face and robbed. His assailants were just sentenced this year after 3 years. I ask you today, Who will speak for these victims and their families? House Bill 10 contains more than 15 provisions aimed at addressing critical issues. Yet much of the discussion has focused narrowly on two items. It is vital we consider the broad scope and the purpose of this legislation. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, was created under the Department of Homeland Security in the aftermath of 9/11 attacks, continues to play a critical role in safeguarding our nation. Let us not forget the magnitude of those attacks, which claimed the lives of 2,996 individuals. Even now, today, over 1,000 victims remain unidentified. And the New York City Medical Examiner's Office continues the painstaking efforts to identify the remains through DNA analysis 22 years later. Now, who do I speak of? They removed 142,580 individuals from 170 countries, not 5 countries, 170 countries, for crimes such as homicide, assault, kidnapping, rape, drug trafficking, child exploitation, human trafficking, and suspected terrorism. For example, 14 members of a major drug organization that trafficked hundreds of kilograms of cocaine and fentanyl were sentenced in Charlotte in December of 2023. Law enforcement seized 60 firearms, 18 high-capacity magazines, ammunition, and 2 tractor trailers equipped with hidden compartments for smuggling narcotics. On January 25th, the Department of Homeland Security reported that over 400 migrants were smuggled into the U.S. by an ISIS-affiliated human trafficking network. This led to 150 arrests, yet 50 individuals remain unaccounted for. These cases highlight the vulnerabilities we face and underscore the need for collaboration between local law enforcement and federal agencies like ICE to protect American lives. A few months ago, I had the privilege to volunteer at a veterans event where I met Dr. Louis Philip Rakowski. He gave me a medallion while I was there with him. He was the physician and the city medical specialist for the New York City Fire Department. The medal says, protecting the braves, the finest and the best. The medallion serves as a powerful reminder of the sacrifices made and the vulnerabilities that persist in America. We must adopt a common sense approach to public safety, ensuring that federal and local agencies work together to safeguard our communities. Let us honor the lessons of 9/11 and commit to protecting future generations. We must never forget. Finally, on the discussion of Opportunity Scholarship Program, let me clarify my position. I have consistently opposed school voucher programs and remain steadfast in the stance. However, House Bill 10 includes numerous provisions that address critical funding needs, which I strongly support. These include ICE, Medicaid rebates, community college enrollment, jail inspectors, yes, I said jail inspectors, and the Housing Emergency Federal Assistance Fund. These components represent essential investments in areas like education, public health, community support, and public safety. To reject the bill outright would mean forfeiting critical funding for these initiatives, which I cannot do in good conscience. For me, it's a matter of not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. While I remain critical of opportunity scholarship program, I must prioritize the broader benefits that this legislation will provide for our community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What purpose does the lady from Mecklenburg, Representative Coffin?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to debate the veto of the right.
The lady has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Once again, we are back having this debate over opportunity scholarship. The other side likes to call it vouchers intentionally, but this is about opportunities. Opportunities for all children all across North Carolina. You have all been on record voting for this legislation. It has gone through this chamber, the other chamber, through the budget, and back and back and back again. It is extremely unfortunate and disingenuous that we keep hearing the same political rhetoric over and over and over about the Opportunity Scholarship Program. This program is about children. It's about families being able to pick what is best for their child. We do not need to set up a false choice between hurricane relief and public school funding and funding for the Opportunity Scholarship Program. The other side seems to want to present an argument that everyone now is going to be forced to go to private school. And that is absolutely false. It is extremely unfortunate that in education, it must become such a partisan issue when it should not be. This is an issue about children. If you love your public school, go there, stay there. If your child is thriving, that is outstanding. But what about your middle child who's not? What about him? What if that school that works for your oldest daughter doesn't quite work for him? Should he have to go to that school? Maybe there's another school that has a smaller class setting. Maybe they offer ortho-Gilliam treatment for help if you're dyslexic, because you won't find that in public schools. This is about putting children first. It is unfortunate that we have seen for the last 2 years with this legislation, the political posturing from the executive level all the way to here. And it's wrong and it's shameful. We are talking about children. We are talking about families. We are not saying that this is all for wealthy children. That is factually inaccurate. The predominance of these children are in tier 1, which is the highest amount. Most who reside are going to be in Mecklenburg and Wayne County. The others, when you talk about wealthy and billionaires, you are wrong. And we need to stop the political posturing, stop trying to manipulate the constituents, giving false information repeatedly. We should not try to set up a war on public schools, school choice, and charter schools. They can all work together. It's not an either-or situation. I don't want to hear about the accountability piece. The accountability piece is the parents. They are taxpayers as well. So that's where the accountability. If the school doesn't work for them, they don't have to send their child there, but the money will follow the child. However, we have a predominance of our public schools that are rated with D's and F's. So if the accountability measure that you want to use is just a simple test score and teaching to a test, I would argue that is a fundamental difference in education and a fundamental difference between what is good for a child and what is not good, especially if you are mother of a child who has special needs. It is shameful that this rhetoric, it is shameful for our governor to try and set up a fight between hurricane victim relief and children. They are not the same. This is a great day for North Carolina. It's going to be a great day for families and for children. If you go to your public school, that's awesome. I went to public school. I taught at public school. I went to private school. My kids go to private school. 2 different ones, because I know what's best for them. Every parent should have that opportunity. We do not need to set up these false choices and try to confuse North Carolina. It is wrong. It is disingenuous.
It is harmful. If you want to make education solutions, then why don't we actually work together? Why don't we join? Why don't you share some of your ideas? Because this should not be a straight partisan issue. And unfortunately, the rhetoric, the posturing, the political theater, that's all it's made this bill to be. This bill is about kids and their families and their future and what is right for North Carolina. Do not fall for the different pots of money and saying that it's taking from the hurricane. Stop. We know what this bill is. We have been over this bill over and over. I ask you today to support all children, your grandchildren, my children, your future children, your constituents. Again, if you love your private school, if you love your public school, if you love your charter school, you are lucky. But there are many children who are trapped in public schools that are failing them. And they have been for generations and generations and generations. They deserve an opportunity of something else. They deserve that. And so that's why I stand here today to fight and advocate for all children, to put kids first. Stop the rhetoric, stop the posturing, and vote for children and for families. I ask you to override the governor's veto.
What Mr. Speaker does, what purpose does the gentleman call the Representative Hawkins? Mr. Speaker, this matter has been debated over and over again over the years until this body is clear. Therefore, I move the previous question. Gentlemen, move the previous question to House Bill 10. The motion is not debatable. Those in favor of the previous question will vote aye. Those opposed vote no. The clerk will open the vote. Representative Bell, Representative Jones. Bell, aye. Jones, aye. Clerk will lock the machine. Report there was 69 having voted in the affirmative, 47 in the negative. Motion for the previous question is adopted. We are now moved to an immediate vote on the bill. Question before the House. It's the motion. And House Bill 10 become law, notwithstanding the objection of the governor. All those in favor of overriding the veto will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no. Clerk will open the vote.
No, he's scared. Well, let's just, let's get out of here.
Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. With 72 having voted in the affirmative and 44 in the negative, the motion carries. Having passed by the requisite 3/5 vote, the House has overridden the governor's veto, and the bill is sent to the Senate by special message. Senate Bill 445, the clerk will read.
Senator Daniel, Senate Bill 445, an act to be entitled Recording of Court File.
Bueno, en este momento tuvimos un tema de conexión, pues hay de 72 votos, 44, pues votaron, 72, perdón, votaron a favor. Acá estamos viendo, pues, evidentemente se anula el voto del gobernador, pues estamos esperando. Fue aprobada evidentemente la ley HB10 con 72 votos a favor, lo cual indica que sí se votó para la anulación del veto del gobernador Roy Cooper a la propuesta de ley HB10. Hoy, ahora pasaría esta votación al Senado para el día de mañana. Esto estaba programado para el día de hoy, pero esta votación ahora en el Senado pasa al Senado estatal para mañana. Más o menos la hora estimada es a las 2 de la tarde. Estaremos desde Enlace Latino llevando pues toda la información. Recordemos que esta ley, ya la HB10, sería una ley que obligaría a los alguaciles locales a colaborar con ICE y que también va a haber una destinación de fondos públicos que van a ser destinados para vales escolares en instituciones privadas. Sabemos que en el lugar también se encuentran diversas organizaciones y líderes comunitarios que han estado en contra o llevándole información a nuestra comunidad sobre el impacto legal y comunitario o para nuestra comunidad latina de este proyecto. Ahora, pues por parte de la Cámara de Representantes aprobada la anulación del veto del gobernador, falta pues la votación del Senado estatal, que será el día de mañana a las 2 de la tarde, aquí desde Raleigh, en Carolina del Norte. Pues muchas personas pensaban que quizá esta decisión por parte de los representantes podría cambiar, pero efectivamente fue aprobada la anulación del veto del gobernador Roy Cooper al proyecto de ley HB10. Estaremos pues publicando en nuestras redes sociales de Enlace Latino NC, también en nuestro sitio web, las actualizaciones. En este momento en la Cámara de Representantes se están discutiendo otros temas y pues desde este momento ya queda aprobada la anulación del veto del gobernador Roy Cooper. También tenemos que recordar que esto es una ley pues conocida por muchos como anti-inmigrante. Sabemos que escuchamos que los republicanos dicen que esta ley pudiera ser necesaria o es necesaria debido al pequeño número de alguaciles que actualmente no cooperan con ICE. Además, la propuesta, pues como ya lo dije anteriormente, destina millones de fondos públicos para la creación de vales escolares para las escuelas privadas. Si la supermayoría republicana logra la anulación del veto, la ley entraría en vigor el 1 de diciembre de 2024. Por lo tanto, los invitamos a que sigan de cerca esta información que estaremos publicando en nuestro sitio web de Enlace Latino NC, también en nuestras redes sociales y también a través de nuestro canal de WhatsApp. Y ahora que tenemos la suscripción para que usted reciba los mensajes de texto con alternativas y otras informaciones. Gracias a quienes estuvieron conectados con nosotros. Esperamos que se mantengan informados a través de nuestros canales de Enlace Latino NC y que pues por ahora esto fue aprobada esta anulación con respecto al proyecto de ley de la HB10, la anulación al veto del gobernador Roy Cooper. Esperemos que sucederá el día de mañana a las 2 de la tarde en el Senado estatal. Los esperamos para que estén al tanto de esta votación y veremos cuál será el destino final de este proyecto de ley, que ha sido pues un proyecto que ha tenido varios procesos donde hay dos caras de la moneda. Muchos por parte de estos representantes pues apoyan la aprobación de este proyecto, otros que definitivamente creen que esto puede impactar negativamente a nuestra comunidad y por supuesto los líderes comunitarios y las diferentes organizaciones de acá de Carolina del Norte que han tratado de explicar lo que significaría la obligación a los alguaciles locales a colaborar con ICE. Esto es un punto importante, al igual que pues la destinación de estos fondos de escuelas públicas para vales escolares para escuelas privadas, y sabemos que esto va a tener un impacto muy seguramente en nuestra comunidad latina. Esperemos a ver qué sucede mañana. Sigan de cerca lo que vamos a seguir transmitiendo, publicando sobre este tema y pues manténganse informados sobre lo que va a suceder con la HB10. Ya sabemos que fue aprobada la anulación del veto del gobernador y que ya la supermayoría republicana votó. Los vemos muy seguramente el día de mañana. Por ahora los invitamos a que sigan nuestros diferentes canales de información y manténgase informados sobre este tema y otros temas importantes que son cruciales para nuestra comunidad latina en Carolina del Norte. Gracias a quienes se conectaron. Vamos a finalizar este live y los esperamos con el siguiente paso sobre esta anulación del veto del gobernador Roy Cooper con respecto al proyecto de ley HB10.